let's talk New Orleans Saints. Look, this team is obviously very talented. They've got a lot of great players at a lot of key positions, but they do have some holes they need to address, like every team. And we've got some news highlighting that the Saints are revamping their strategy in terms of what they're going to do this offseason to fix some of those holes. I think it's a really smart move. Let's get into the story. And then, Miles, I know you've got some thoughts on it. All right, this is from the Saints News Network. Dennis Allen quickly compared where the team is now on the offensive side of the ball to where the team was a handful of years ago on the defensive side of the football. It was really in 2016 where I kind of took over, Allen said. I think we clearly identified what we wanted to do defensively and exactly what we were looking for at each position. Here's the most important part. Therefore, we were able to find those guys in the 2017 draft and on. I think we became a better defense because of that. That is where the team was before it added cornerback Marshawn Lattimore and safety Marcus Williams, who both helped the team revitalize itself on that side of the ball. A year later, they added linebacker Demario Davis, and since they have been one of the best defenses in the league, now the Saints will look to do the same thing on the offensive side of the ball. All right, again, that 2017 draft is one of the great drafts in Saints history. And of course, it looks like Dennis Allen, Mickey Loomis, and company are trying to revitalize that strategy for the future. Miles, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. But first, Saints fans in the comment section below. All right, look, obviously the Saints have some cap issues. They're moving cap around, restructuring. They're going to have to really focus on the draft to fix this roster, get it better, improve it. Give us the one position you think the Saints really need to focus on in the upcoming NFL draft and put it in the comment section below. But Miles, give me your thoughts on this news involving the Saints and just the Saints' overall strategy here in terms of getting their roster to a better spot.
Yeah, Nick, I think this is crucial for the Saints because we talk about when Allen, he said he came in that 2016 era, and they really kind of sat down and had a powwow of, let's kind of rediscuss what we're looking for at each position. And you just read through it. We see what happened to that defense. They've got some key players for many, many years, great players for that defense. And defense is still good defense, top 10 defense in the NFL per PFF, if you want to look at those metrics. But I am excited now that they're taking a step back and looking at the offense because throughout history, the Saints have kind of had a type, especially when you look at the wide receiver position. It was either guys that were like 5'11 plus, 200 pounds plus, or that had like elite level speed. And, you go through the Devery Hendersons, the Robert Meachams, Michael Thomas, Kenny Stills, all those guys have something along those lines. Either they're very, very, very tall, or they're very fast, like your Chris Olave or Brandon Cooks. And I think that the Saints have got some guys in the building now that they're going to all sit down. He talks about getting the offense together later in the article and really talking about what they're going to look for. And two guys in particular, I think are going to be key here. And that's new wide receiver coach from the Ravens, Keith Williams, and also assistant wide receiver coach, Denarius McGee from the Texans, who both have had success in their respective organizations drafting wide receivers outside of that mold. I think this might be part of the plan of why Dennis Allen brought them in. You look at the Baltimore Ravens, Keith Williams getting Zay Flowers, a smaller, shiftier type of guy who doesn't necessarily fit the receiver mold that the Bengals the Saints would traditionally look at. Then you see McGee getting a guy like Tank Dell, another phenomenal, shifty, smaller type of player who is very, very explosive. I think these are the kind of guys that the Saints are really kind of trying to mold the new offense around. And I think they're doing it all over the ball. They bring up doing it over the offensive line. They bring up tight ends. They bring up quarterbacks. But the wide receiver is a specific example. I think it's the easiest to quantify exactly what they're going to do. Just look at these guys. You see like Zay Flowers. He's 5'8". He's 192 pounds. He ran a 4.4. Not like blazing fast. He's not super big. But you see what he's able to do on the field. And I think that's why they got to take a step back and really kind of look at what they're doing and move things around and re-identify what they're looking for at each position. And I think now that Allen's identified they're going to do that, it's going to be great.
It's one of those things because it sounds so obvious, right? And of course, for anybody outside of the organization, outside of the Saints, it's like, well, duh. Obviously, the 2017 class was spectacular. Why wouldn't you take that same strategy and apply it to every single draft class to try to get the best thing out of it? But the reality is, if you look at every single other NFL team, including the Saints, is that they don't always do these sort of obvious things because they fall into this rut where we definitely need an offensive. We need a left guard above all else. So you get that, or you get stuck at a certain strategy of like, well, we need a lot of help on special teams, or whatever. Oh, we don't have enough depth in the secondary. So you get kind of pigeonholed into a certain strategy, and then draft classes come and go, and you don't do as good a job as you would have liked, even though you had a tried and true proven method here. The 2017 class is really just one of the great classes, I think, of all time. What the Saints were able to do with all those picks, you go down the list: Lattimore, Ramczyk, Marcus Williams, Alvin Kamara, Alex Anzalone, Trey Hendrickson. I mean, those are all Pro Bowl superstar kind of players that are still playing in the National Football League, right? That's an incredible draft class, right? That's something that's, if you can duplicate that, that's exactly what you want to do. And I love the fact that the Saints are taking a step back and recognizing, yeah, we're outsmarting ourselves here. We're trying to get too cute. We know this worked in the past. Let's go back to it, right? Let's identify our type. Let's figure out what we're looking for. We brought in a new receivers coach for a reason. Let's work with him, figure out what kind of type are we looking for at wide receiver. Let's identify him in the draft. And then in the second or third round, let's pick him. Okay, let's figure out what kind of tight end we're looking for, our type. Okay, let's identify who fits that in the draft class and pick him, right? Looking, and this works for other teams too. We saw the Rams famously did this with Puka Nacua, right? It had a lot of success. Of course, Nacua had one of the great rookie wide receiver campaigns in NFL history. It sounds so simple, but a lot of NFL teams just don't really do that well. They get so focused on such short-term thinking of, how do I address one position of need? How do I get this issue solved? This, that, and the other thing. But the Saints, recognizing that their strategy from the past was fantastic. I mean, it's kind of obvious, but it was fantastic. Let's revitalize it for 2024. I think it's a great sign for Dennis Allen, Mickey Loomis, and company, because the reality is, based on the Saints cap situation, they are going to have to rely on the draft to fill the holes. And if they can take just a chunk of that strategy for 2017 and apply it to the offense of 2024, we're going to see a much, much, much better New Orleans Saints offense come regular season time.
Yeah, Nick, and I think your comment about salary cap, while unfortunately it is true, I think that's the most important thing to see here. I think that's smart by Dennis Allen saying, "Hey, dancing around the salary cap issue is gonna be something that we're gonna have to do eventually. We can't just keep kicking the can down the road. Apparently, you can, but we don't want to. Eventually, we'll want to get it under control." So I think when I look at the Saints roster on offense and the things in the article previously states, I think we're gonna see a tackle coming out of this draft. I think we're going to see wide receivers coming out of this draft. I think we're going to see maybe a top tier tight end come out of this draft. I think these are just things the Saints are kind of taking a look at, and just looking at the draft and seeing what guys they might have previously, they probably didn't glass over them, but just guys say, okay, 5'11 plus, nope, 200 pounds, nope. All right, let's move on to the next guy. Just take another look at the guys that in this kind of configure exactly what they're looking for. And I'm excited to see with the scouting combine coming up, and then potentially the draft, see exactly what the Saints do and see if they follow this strategy going forward.